Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalam ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. This is Edward Ahmed Mitchell welcoming you to today's episode of CAIR on Air, the Muslim Action Hour. Thank you so much for joining us. A special thank you to our listeners on American Muslim 360 and everyone watching online. I'm here with my co-host, Ayan Ajim, the communications coordinator of CAIR National. Assalamu alaikum, Ayan. How are you?
Assalamu alaikum, Edward. I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good, alhamdulillah. No complaints. So today we've got a very busy program, mashallah. We're going to be taking a trip around the country to several different states to talk about separate but I think related incidents that are happening right now. We're going to, and I believe, Maryland, Austin, Georgia, and New Jersey, correct?
Yeah.
Mashallah. So trip around the country, we're going to be hearing from some of our staff members in those chapters about some very, I think, important and interesting cases they're working on. And so we've got quite a few people and not a lot of time. So, Ayan, why don't we dive in with our first guest? First guest. Alhamdulillah. Ayan, if you can introduce them, please.
So we have the Executive Director of CAIR New Jersey with us, Salah Ad-Din. Assalamu alaikum. And we have Murtaza Khawaja, the Legal and Policy Director at CAIR Georgia. Assalamu alaikum, Murtaza. How are you guys doing?
Wa alaikum assalam, Ayan. Wa alaikum assalam, Edward. Thank you so much for having us on the show today. Doing well, alhamdulillah.
Always happy to have you. So let's start with New Jersey. Brother Salah Ad-Din, so there's as you know, a post that has gone somewhat viral on the internet, especially within the Muslim community. And I'm going to have Ayan, if she has it available, show it while we talk about it. What is this post and what's the connection to New Jersey?
Absolutely. Welcome, Salam. Thank you for having me. The post has been circulating. It's a screenshot of an email that looks to be from an individual named Priyanka, who is working as a recruiter, an HR recruiter for a company that goes by the name of NITYO Infotech. And from our understanding, the company has its headquarters based here in New Jersey, in Plainsboro, not too far from our office, actually. And this email at the very top says, 2 bullets. The first bullet says, and I quote, "Please do not submit Muslim candidates for below positions." Yeah, right there. So you have it in front of you. And my understanding is that this was circulated internally as they're kind of looking for people to fill in the various positions that they have available. And this came to us late last night. We've been receiving phone calls, messages, emails from community members, very concerned. And right now we're just looking into the issue and we're seeing what we can learn more.
Okay, now can we zoom in any further on this, Ayan? I see the second email where the person follows up. I don't see the first email. So in the initial email that she sent, the statement was, Salah Ad-Din, correct me if I'm wrong, was do not, what was it exactly? What's the wording? Don't let Muslims apply for this. Don't send this to any Muslims.
Yeah, please do not submit Muslim candidates for below position. And then, Brother Edward, what happened after, immediately after this email was sent, there was a second email, as you just mentioned, where they issue some sort of an apology, claiming that it was a mistake. The apology was worded, I can read it for you here. Hi all, apologies from my side. By mistake, I mentioned over an email regarding Muslim. Not entirely clear. Oh wait, and then
Right here.
Yeah, I see it here. My apologies. Here is, by mistake, I mentioned over an email regarding Muslim. Here, the English is a little off, but very interesting. So this company is based in New Jersey. This screenshot went public and was shared pretty widely. So what's CAIR New Jersey doing about this right now?
Right now, we've teamed up with CAIR San Diego, and we have launched a press release encouraging NITYO to launch an investigation to figure out what happened and take action against any guilty parties that they might find. Obviously, this is very concerning, and we're looking into various different options on the table. But at this point, we just want to know more about what happened, got off the phone not too long ago before this call with NITYO executive directors from both the Jersey office and other offices globally. And they are claiming, as they have claimed in another statement, I believe on LinkedIn, that their server was hacked. So at first they apologized via email, but now they're claiming that it was hacked. And this is what they're telling me over email. I'm sorry, over the phone call. So that's what they're saying. They told me that they're going to continue investigating. They told me that they'll have more news for us by tomorrow, inshallah. So we'll see what they find, and we'll continue to pursue it, inshallah. But right now we're a bit skeptical, considering there's a contradiction in the communications. But yeah.
So, I don't think I'm mishearing you, but the claim that their email was hacked, I mean, you say you're skeptical. I think you're being polite. I guess the first question is, why would anyone hack the random email of the recruiter and send out this email? That's the first question. What hacker was thinking, let me go hack NITYO, a recruiter from NITYO, and then send the email? And then why would the person who sent the email then send an immediate follow-up email, saying, my bad, I mentioned Muslims, unless the hacker was really, playing the long game here. If that's their explanation, I think they're going to have to provide some proof of that. Otherwise, they're going to need to do a lot better than that if they want to come up with an explanation for this. Right. So very
none of it makes sense.
Yeah. Now, let me toss it to you, Ayan. I know you want to, we've got Morteza here, and we're going to ask him about another subject. Look, we might have lost Ayan. I'll go to Morteza while we wait for Ayan to come back. So Morteza, before we talk about the work you're doing in Georgia, the situation with Salahuddin reminds me of a case that we worked on in Georgia where, I believe it was in Macon, a Black Muslim had applied for a job, and one of the recruiters, one of the employees at the business, accidentally copied the Muslim on an email that he meant to send internally. Do you recall this case? And the email said, "I worked with a Black person before. It didn't work out well, and I'm suspicious of his name." And the guy had an Arabic name. And so I don't know, does this make you wonder, Morteza, what is going on behind the scenes in businesses? What conversations are happening that we just find out about somewhat randomly? Not randomly, but rarely. But does it make you concerned about what conversations might be going on behind the scenes in major companies?
Absolutely. I remember that case well, and we had another one with a Muslim woman who was wearing a niqab, who, if you remember, was denied for wearing her niqab. Similarly, she was told, if you take that off, you can join here. Very blatantly. This is blatant discrimination. So if these are the slip-ups that we see happen, occasionally, I think there's nothing else but for us to be very concerned about what's happening privately, because these aren't just exceptions. These things happen regularly in the workplace, and we know Muslims are the ones being affected. So it also begs the question is, are diversity, inclusion, and implicit bias trainings doing enough? Because they might be able to mask the problem and make it more palatable. But if these opinions exist, they're going to exist whether or not these trainings have happened. And something needs to be done to strengthen protections for Muslims and other groups that are discriminated against.
Absolutely. I mean, because it raises the question, if you felt comfortable sending an email to your coworker saying, I worked with a Black person before, it didn't go well, and his name is suspicious, or don't share this with any Muslims, the fact that you felt comfortable sending that email in the first place says something, not only about you, but about your company, about the culture in your corporation, because what sane person would send that email unless they thought it was going to be acceptable to their coworker? So as you said, Morteza, I mean, part of the solution here is not only fighting the court of law, but making sure we have legislation and enforcement of legislation that clearly protects people in the workplace. So that brings us to the work that you are doing, CAIR Georgia is doing, and others are doing in Georgia to maximize turnout in the upcoming election. I think Ayan's going to take it from here with you.
Yeah, so Morteza, can you tell us about the Muslims for Georgia Coalition? Like, what work are you doing with them? How is CAIR involved in that?
Absolutely. Thanks for having us and to asking us about this. Muslims for Georgia is a newly launched 501c3 coalition of different 501c3 groups, Muslim organizations, civil rights activists, and some masajids here in the state of Georgia. It is come at a very, dynamic time where we've got the senatorial runoffs going on, where there's a lot of attention on the state of Georgia But really what this coalition is for is to build sustainable engagement with the Muslim community and the political and electoral process. One thing that this pandemic has done, the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, is it's highlighted inequities in a lot of areas that Muslims particularly are disproportionately impacted in, whether that's affordable housing or access to healthcare or other types or in the criminal justice system. We've seen disproportionate impact on Muslims, and that's been highlighted. So a lot of Muslims that weren't engaged in the political process or were made to feel like they couldn't be engaged through very active efforts to suppress the vote here in Georgia, they've now become a lot more engaged and they want to engage with the process. So really what this coalition is meant to do is, one, register as many Muslims as possible for this election, for futures elections. Alhamdulillah, there's been some great work done in Georgia, not just by CAIR Georgia and our partners, but our other coalition partners at the New Georgia Project, Galeo, AAAJ. So only 2% of eligible voters are not registered, which is incredible in any state, and especially here in Georgia, where the number was closer to 30% in 2016. The next step is making sure that those voters who are registered actually go out to the polls and vote, and that they make the most informed decisions. So we have the second facet of our program, which is providing resources, videos, webinars, and other graphics. So, and we've created a candidate survey that we've sent out to the campaigns. We really want the Muslim community, because we're not a monolith, to be informed about the pressing issues of this election. We want them to make the best decision when they do go out to the polls and vote.
And so I have a question for both you and Salahuddin. So considering what we were just talking about with how I view the situation in New Jersey is that it's trying to suppress the Muslims from reaching certain positions and having opportunities. So why do you think, what do you see as the connection between the two, as getting Muslims in a position where they can voice their votes and their opinions? Why is that important, considering situations like this that are happening in the workplace?
I think it's, Salali, I'll kick it off to you, but I just wanted to touch upon this one point that because we do direct services as well. So I've seen the client's needs directly and see how they're impacted. One thing that sticks out to me about the clients that come to us and about the communities we serve when it comes to electoral politics is this feeling of helplessness and this feeling that they can't do anything and that there's not a solution, which is why it's so incredible for groups like CAIR to be involved in this type of work with their community support, because there is this feeling of helplessness. You're made to feel like this is just the way it is and your voice doesn't matter and you can't, or your religion doesn't matter, your practices don't matter. And where actually quite contrary to that, the opposite is true. You have constitutional protections. You have a voice. As long as you go out and vote, you do have a voice. So really, it's not that our community doesn't want to be engaged. It's been that they've made to feel that either helpless or that they don't have a voice. Alhamdulillah, through the great work that CAIR has done nationally, different CAIR chapters have done, we've seen greater engagement. I know the great numbers you all put out. You did some great work. We saw 84% of voter engagement by the Muslim community, which is incredible. So I think times are changing, but this feeling of hopelessness and this feeling that you don't have a voice, you're made to feel that way intentionally. Voter suppression is very real, and it's done intentionally to minimize Black voters, immigrant voters, and other communities of color in the same way that discrimination disproportionately impacts these communities. It's intentional, and this is why we need protections in legislation, both at the state and national level, for these groups.
Wonderful. Thank you, Murtaza, and thank you, Salahuddin, for sharing with us the information about what's going on in your state. We hope to see a massive Muslim turnout in the election, no matter the outcome. We just want to make sure that Muslims make our voices heard. And given how close the election could be, I suspect that the Muslim community in Georgia can play a decisive role in the outcome one way or another. So we hope they will certainly turn out to vote, God willing. And Salahuddin, please keep us updated on the situation in New Jersey. If you hear anything new, let us know. I understand CAIR San Diego and CAIR Chicago are also involved in this. It's a multi-state thing, so we look forward to you all coordinating together and making some progress on addressing this issue so that every person in America, especially including the Muslim community, can apply for jobs and be treated just like anybody else, inshallah. All right, thank you both. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Wa alaikum assalam.
All right, Ayan, you please welcome on our next guest, inshallah. Oh, well, you're muted, Ayan.
So now we're bringing on Zainab Chowdhury from the CAIR office in Maryland and William from CAIR Austin. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum. All right, we've got Brother William Mike here, Austin, Zainab Chowdhury from CAIR National, the director of our Maryland Outreach Office. A pleasure to have both of you today. So inshallah, we're going to continue this discussion of what is going on in our local areas around the country. We just heard from CAIR Georgia, and we heard from CAIR New Jersey, and now we want to hear about a few things that are going on in your areas. Brother William, let me start with you, if I may, inshallah. So first of all, in Austin, you've got a very diverse city. It's known as for being relatively tolerant, I dare say, but you've got some issues there. What's going on?
Well, I would refute diverse and tolerant just a little bit, Brother Ahmed.
Correct me. I'm trying to help you out. It's your city. I'm being.
I just call it how it is.
Tell us how it is.
Well, I mean, of course, you know, in the South, we've had a long tradition of over-policing Black and brown neighborhoods. And I think no matter the view, no matter the progress that any city makes, that history will stay with us. So what happened is the Office of Police Oversight here in Austin came out with a report this year, which showed there is a likelihood of Black and brown individuals in Austin, specifically West Austin, which is a historically Black neighborhood and historically Chicano neighborhood of Austin, where police stops are more frequent, they're more likely. And even after a stop has occurred, an escalated search, that's where an officer has placed an individual in handcuffs, put them in the back of a squad car, and has other officers come to search that vehicle, is more likely. It's 52% more likely for Black males to have an escalated search in the city of Austin on the west side. So these are just unfortunate truths that we're facing. Unfortunately, it's not uncommon to the rest of the country, but here in Austin as well, we have another issue, a report that was released just this year, which shows all of the officer-involved shootings were with male minorities. So most of them being Latino Chicano. However, recently also, I believe there was one African-American male. This is becoming, it's not an anomaly with Austin Police Department anymore, unfortunately. I don't think it ever has been. So that's what's going on, and we're calling for justice.
So that's remarkable. So number one, I mean, the first stat, 52% greater likelihood of getting pulled over and having the situation escalate in an area of Austin where it's populated by minorities, particularly African Americans. And also, I think you've also got this issue of all the officer-involved shootings in 1 year involving minorities. I mean, that's remarkable. It'd be one thing, I mean, the majority or most, I mean, that's not surprising given the problem with policing in America, but all of them in a city like Austin, that's remarkable. So
in a city that's 70% white, sorry to cut you off, but in a city that's 70% white and the fastest growing white population in the country, you know, myself included, I came from Houston. It's a problem when a minority that is actually minority is so overrepresented in traffic stops and searches and the highest of police shootings. That it's a huge problem.
Yeah. So what's the response of CAIR Austin? How can we even begin? How do you even begin to address this systemic issue in Austin?
So as government affairs manager, I always like to go back to legislation. Inshallah, of course, within our 501c3 parameters and not getting into party lines or anything like that,
of course.
Inshallah, CAIR Texas will be asking legislatures to introduce laws that offer protections, civil rights protections, and establish a state oversight board. And we'll be teaming up with a bunch of great civil rights orgs down here in Texas to get this work done. More locally, we'll be reaching out, inshallah, soon. I'm still working on the legislative stuff, but inshallah, soon we'll be reaching out to the Police Oversight Board and asking for some concrete actions to come about from these two reports this year.
Okay, that's good. I mean, it could be a long process, but you start somewhere. and you pursue the change that's needed, and you make the change that you can. So may Allah grant you all success with that, and please keep us posted on the work you're doing. And now, Ayan, please take it away. Tell us what's going on, and stand by, William, in case we want to continue the conversation. There may be some connection here, but Ayan, go ahead, take it away with our dear friend Zainab in Maryland.
Assalamu alaikum, Zainab. So I wanted to talk to you about the hate crime that we saw in Maryland. And in this particular hate crime, we see that there's been a pattern of abuse on a certain Muslim family in Maryland. So can you tell us a little more about this and why this family specifically has been targeted?
Yeah, walaikum salam. Thank you so much, Ayan, for having me on to share this family story. Are you able to hear me okay? I think on my end, my connection's a little bit weak, so if I fade in, please let me know.
We can hear you.
Great, fantastic. So thank you for highlighting this family story. CAIR was contacted about a week ago by a Maryland Muslim who resides in Anne Arundel County, and this is an individual who was allegedly assaulted on November 6th, 3 days after Election Day. He sustained injuries that required him to receive medical treatment. And this family has been living in fear because of alleged pattern of hate crimes and bias incidents that they have been enduring for the last approximately 5 years since their neighbor moved in next door. And one of CAIR's biggest concerns is obviously the safety and security of the family, even as we work to get justice for them. This is a family who migrated to the United States, fleeing persecution and oppression, thinking that they could find, a better opportunity for themselves and their loved ones. And now they are subjected to the same kind of, or similar kind of hatred here in Maryland. So one of the biggest obstacles, unfortunately, has been working with law enforcement for the family. They have contacted law enforcement many times to report these incidents. Unfortunately, until CAIR was able to get involved, there wasn't really any kind of substantial progress in terms of making sure that these reports were being taken seriously.
So what is CAIR? You said that now that CAIR has been involved, what are they doing now to help these reports be taken seriously?
So in this particular incident, we know that second-degree assault charges have been filed, but that's not sufficient, especially considering the fact that, according to reports from the family, the suspect allegedly did say, effing Muslims. I don't want to say this on air. He did refer to their ethnicity, to their religion, and the nature of incidents that have been happening has frankly terrorized the family, right? They are afraid to leave their house. They're not sleeping well at night, reportedly. The mother tells CAIR that her son is having difficulty as well, concentrating for his studies. And so there's not only the physical impact of these kind of incidents, but also the psychological, psychosocial impact of these kind of incidents as well. And so CAIR is working with the family twofold. Our focus is our priority is their safety and security. We want to make sure that they, like every other American, have the right to be able to be safe inside and outside of their home without being persecuted or allegedly harassed or targeted in any way. And then our second fold focus is to make sure that the family gets justice. The second-degree assault charges are not sufficient based on the information that CAIR has received. We are calling for a hate crime investigation. And so CAIR has been in touch with the law enforcement officials to make sure that they understand, why we are making this call. CAIR's legal team is also involved. So CAIR's attorneys are also guiding the family in this process to make sure that they know what their rights are. They know how the system works so that, if they have any questions, they can get sound legal advice. And this is all free of charge. So, when we talk to people in the community about how CAIR offers their support and services to the community, this is what people like our community's donations help support. The family was telling CAIR that they were so appreciative because for the first time in 5 years, right, they feel like they're no longer alone. And I think that that's really telling because a lot of times until we are actually in that kind of situation, it's hard for us to really relate and understand how somebody who is, faced with these kind of circumstances is overcoming them.
Thank you, Zainab. And thank you, Will, for coming on, both of you guys, and telling us about these situations that are happening in your areas and reminding us why it's important to support CAIR's work, because without that support, you wouldn't be able to give the help that you're giving.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yes. Alhamdulillah. May Allah reward both of you. Thanks for joining us. Assalamu alaikum. All right, Ayan, well, thank you so much for arranging this program. I think it's good to see and hear about what's happening around the country and the work that CAIR is doing around the country to address these issues. May Allah grant us success in our efforts, and may Allah protect all of you. We hope you all have a good few days off from work, a nice time with your family, safely and securely. Ayan, are we going to be having a program? Not on Thursday, obviously, so we'll see everyone again, inshallah, next week, next Tuesday, at 3 o'clock for the next episode of CAIR on Air, the Muslim Action Hour, inshallah. Until then, assalamu alaikum. May peace be upon you.
Assalamu alaikum.